Everyone laughed at her torn shoes at the interview, until the CEO chose her among 33 candidates left. The rain had not been kind that morning. Maria stood outside the tall glass building, clutching her worn-out folder, her heart pounding like a drum. Her shoes, her only pair, were old, the leather cracked, the sole on the right one peeling away. She tried to hide them under her slacks, praying no one would notice. Today was her only chance. 34 candidates had been shortlisted for the most prestigious management trainee position in the city. For Maria, it wasn't just a job, it was hope. Hope for her younger brother's education, for her mother's medical bills, for a life less cruel than the one poverty had written for her. When she walked into the waiting hall, conversations paused. A few well-dressed candidates eyed her shoes and smirked. One young man whispered loudly enough for others to hear, "Did she walk here from another century?" Laughter erupted, muffled but sharp enough to slice through her already fragile confidence. Maria swallowed hard. She had faced mockery before, but this time it hurt more, because this room wasn't just filled with strangers. It was filled with competitors, people who looked the part while she only had her courage to cling to. Instead of running, Maria took a seat in the corner, opening her folder. Inside were her carefully prepared notes, her resume printed on cheap paper, and handwritten reminders, "Stay confident. Tell your story. Don't give up." She read them silently, almost like a prayer. The interviews began one by one. Candidates strutted in with polished shoes and expensive briefcases, exiting with rehearsed smiles and polite nods. Maria waited, her stomach twisting, her mind whispering doubts. When her name was finally called, she rose slowly, feeling every pair of eyes on her shoes as if they carried the weight of shame. Inside the CEO's office, she was greeted by Mr. Harrison, a man in his late 50s with silver hair and an aura of quiet authority. His desk was neat, his suit immaculate, and his gaze sharp but kind. He motioned for her to sit. "Maria," he began, scanning her resume. "Your academic record is strong. Top of your class. Impressive volunteer work too. But tell me, what makes you believe you can succeed here when you're competing with 33 others who seem more prepared?" The question stung. She knew what he meant. They looked the part. She didn't. For a moment, her throat tightened, and she thought of all the laughter echoing in the waiting hall. Then, almost without meaning to, she glanced at her shoes. A lump formed in her chest. She inhaled deeply. "Sir," she said softly, "I may not have the finest shoes, but these shoes have walked me through struggles most people can't imagine. I've walked miles to school because we couldn't afford bus fare. I've worked double shifts at diners to keep the lights on at home. Every tear in these shoes represents a battle I didn't give up on. I believe success isn't about how polished you look walking into a room, it's about how determined you are to keep walking when the road is rough. If I can endure all that and still stand here, I promise I can endure the challenges of this company and give it everything I have." The room grew silent. Maria's voice trembled, but her eyes did not. For a long moment, Mr. Harrison simply looked at her, then leaned back in his chair. Slowly, a faint smile tugged at his lips. "You remind me of someone," he said at last. "When I was young, I came to my first interview with a jacket borrowed from my cousin and shoes with holes in the soles. Everyone laughed at me too. But someone gave me a chance. That chance changed my life." Maria blinked, her breath caught between disbelief and relief. Hours later, the candidates gathered in the hall as the results were announced. Names were read, rejections handed out politely. When the final name echoed, Maria Lopez, the room froze. Some gasped. A few rolled their eyes in disbelief. But Maria stood still, her hands trembling, tears burning behind her lids. Mr. Harrison appeared beside her and spoke so everyone could hear. "I chose Maria not in spite of her torn shoes, but because of them. This company doesn't just need polished resumes, it needs people who know how to fight, to persevere, to value opportunities. Talent is important, but character is everything. The hall was silent. Those who had laughed earlier lowered their eyes. For the first time that day, Maria felt taller than anyone else in the room. That evening, as she walked home, her shoes still worn but her heart soaring, Maria whispered to herself, "It wasn't the shoes that defined me, it was the path I walked in them." Uplifting message. This story reminds us that true worth isn't found in appearances, but in resilience, humility, and strength of character. Kindness and opportunity can change a life, and sometimes, the torn shoes carry the strongest stories of all.